This is Good Morning New Hampshire with Jack Heath, featuring the latest news, discussions, and information from the Granite State to Washington, D.C. with local insight from frontline workers and veterans. Now, live from the Pulse of New Hampshire studios, here's Jack Heath.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back, as promised. In our studios, GMI Studios, former South Carolina governor, ambassador to the United Nations. Busy day in New Hampshire. Neil Levesque was on earlier with us from St. Anselm College saying Nikki Haley filled the room at Politics and Eggs this morning. She's nice enough to be in our studios and on her way to Bedford and eventually Rye, I guess a cookout at the home of Scott Brown, former U.S. Senator and candidate, and Gail Huff Brown, who ran for Congress, of course, and good friend of mine from the broadcast days. Nikki Haley in our studios. Governor, good morning.
Jack, it's great to be with you again.
Hey, we're going to post a little social media thing I did of Unplugged before the interview. It might become a hit with all these presidential candidates, but you're off to a couple of stops today, but a big week. Speaking of South Carolina, Tim Scott, beginning of the week. Ron DeSantis this afternoon. On Twitter, announcement with Elon Musk, which shows you the changing times, but you haven't been on the show in a little bit. We had Donald Trump on a few weeks ago. I just want to get updated. How's the campaign going? These are big names. I just asked you. Trump, DeSantis, maybe Scott, but Haley. These are big names. Does that set you back a little bit or fire you up more? And how's the campaign going?
Not at all. We are very happy with where we are. We are touching as many hands and building relationships in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. I have said there are no shortcuts. You're not going to see us come in, do a rally, and leave. You're going to see us answer the hard questions, do the hard work. We were drowning in eggs today at the Politics and Eggs event. We're going to be doing a veterans event today. We're going to be doing a women event today. We're going to be doing the barbecue with Scott Brown. We're here all week.
What's the veterans event? I'm sorry to interrupt, Governor.
We are coming out with our veterans plan on the fact of what we need to do. You know, I am a military spouse and wife of a combat veteran who deployed in Afghanistan. And, you know, when you look at recruitment in our military, we're down 25%. And when we're growing up, our parents teach us you take care of those that take care of you. We have these men and women who have literally been willing to shed blood for us, protect us, defend our freedoms. And we celebrate them when they come home, and then we forget about them. 33,000 of our heroes are homeless. That's shameful. You've got 1 in 3 veterans suffer from PTSD or thoughts of suicide. You've got the fact that 4 times the number of post 9/11 troops or veterans have died from suicide as opposed to combat. We've got to deal with that. 17 veterans commit suicide every single day, and America's allowed it to happen. So when I'm president, we're going to go and we're going to fix this. And the way we're going to fix it is, why does it take 29 days for a veteran to have to get a doctor's appointment at the VA? The way we're going to fix it is, I think Congress needs to start using the VA, and I bet it'll get fixed really quick.
Well, I want to stop there because last week, I think it's the only one in the country, we went 12 hours here in my Make 12 Hours Count Radiothon to raise money for local veteran nonprofits. So 12 hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. trying to stop the train. Why is it more people don't give a damn? And you're married to a combat veteran. And you don't have to be a veteran to serve and help veterans, but why don't more people get a little bit ticked off when a veteran has to wait a month for an appointment, or someone who, no offense, crashes into this country can go to a local emergency room and get care and the veteran's waiting? Or in New York a week or so ago, they wanted to displace transitional housing veterans for a migrant who broke into the country. Why don't people give a damn?
Well, because I don't think they know. And as the wife of a combat veteran, I know all too well what happens. And the fact is, when they come home and you see them hug and kiss their loved ones when they come home, that's only the beginning of what happens. They don't realize that when they return home, they can't be around large crowds. They can't hear loud noises. Life has moved on without them. And so what we've said is...
And they have a hard time transitioning to the civilian life.
And no one focuses on the transition. They focus on when you get home, but they don't transition you along after that. We want to give veterans choices in healthcare. We want to make sure that we focus on the transition the whole way through. We want to make sure that we have more telehealth so that we can help them with these mental health issues.
Well,
we want to make sure that we also focus on the fact that screening should not just be blood pressure. It should be mental health as well. And we're going to focus on spouses. The GA benefits should go to more than just education. It should be whatever they want it to be. And let's get the woke ideology out of our military. Stop making them take gender pronoun classes. It's ridiculous.
Well, elaborate on that point, because I was talking earlier about some of the corporate pushback we're seeing about Target. And hey, real quickly, Governor, if you don't mind us being flexible, we're going to have a real live report because you were running a little late, but we're going to take our time with Nikki Haley in our studios, former governor, South Carolina Republican presidential candidate, Rory O'Neill, NBC News Radio national correspondent, with a quick update and a hit on Ron DeSantis' announcement this afternoon. Very timely, Rory. Say hi to the governor.
Governor, good morning. Nice to talk to you. And, you're going to have some more competition by the time the day is done with the highly anticipated and long expected final announcement from Ron DeSantis sitting down with Elon Musk for a Twitter Spaces announcement, which is just a strange way that I don't think anyone saw that coming, to use the Twitter platform as a way to make the campaign announcement.
And, Governor, I think you'd agree. You never would have seen this a number of years ago, right? I mean, like President Biden he announced his reelection with a video ironically called Freedom. I won't get into that. But does this mean, Rory, that Musk is backing DeSantis or just using the Twitter platform as a way to kind of get some marketing?
Yeah, he says no, he's not. This is not an endorsement. I think he's trying to do a little payback for Republicans after Twitter shut down the article about Hunter Biden's laptop. So I think he's trying to tip the hat to Republicans a little bit here and acknowledge what Twitter had done in the past was wrong. But maybe he's trying to be the next Murdoch family as well. That could be in his sights.
Rory O'Neill, NBC News Radio national correspondent. Thank you, Rory.
Thanks, Jack.
Governor, I want to get back to what you were saying just about the military and a lot of the woke stuff and the gender. So I've heard from recruiters, actually, because I'll tell you later offline about Fusion Cell, but a lot of recruiters I know, Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines, they're having a hard time, as you just said, Governor Haley, getting people to join, even the National Guard, a real challenge. Less than 1% serve, as you know, 330 million people. I'm hearing from the recruiters that some of the stuff that the military is pushing on the sort of, let's just say, social governance side is actually turning away recruits, not turning them on.
I mean, we're down 25% in recruitment. And you have to look at the fact that, look, they're going in to protect and defend their country. They're not going in there to get all this woke ideology. It is humiliating to them to have to take gender pronoun classes. We should be building the strongest military in the world. And instead, we've got all of this craziness going on. Our focus needs to be on what truly matters.
What's driving this? I'm sorry. I talk about this on my show, Governor Haley. Stanford University, Michigan State. Their index of chosen words on campus. Stanford and Michigan State. Kind of a contrast there. They don't want you to say the term American on campus because it might offend someone. They don't want students to say, I went home for the Memorial Day weekend, had a great week with my sister and brother. They want to say sibling. What is going on?
You know, all these people are getting their feelings hurt when at the end of the day, we live in the greatest country in the world. We should always be patriotic. Our kids need to know to love America. We need to always talk about how we're the greatest country in the world. But all this, you know, the fact that they're doing this DEI stuff and this equity and inclusion, all it's doing is dividing us. We need to get together and be Americans. That's what matters at the end of the day. You know, when I was growing up, my parents would always say, you never talk about what makes you different. You talk about what makes you similar. Our country could use my mom's advice right now. We've got to go back to what it means to be American. And all of these companies that you see, you know, whether it's Bud Light, whether it's Target, they're finding out with their profits. Quit pushing these things on Americans. We don't want it. We don't want it. If you choose to do it, you're going to pay a price in your profits in the long run. And I think the American people are proving that.
Nikki Haley and our network of news talk stations up into Portland, Maine, even though the primary won't be there, they'd probably like it. No, they'd mess it up. Governor, why are you the best Republican presidential candidate to defeat Joe Biden?
Because I've been a two-term governor that took a double-digit unemployment state and turned it into an economic powerhouse. I wasn't at the UN and dealt with one country. I dealt with 193 countries and took the kick me sign off of our backs and got us respected again. I'm running for president because now is the time that we focus on what really matters. My parents came here 50 years ago to an America that was strong and proud and full of opportunities. I want them to know that country again. I'm doing this for my husband and his military brothers and sisters because they need to know their sacrifice mattered. I'm doing this for my daughter because she just got married, and I see how hard it is for her to own a home. And I'm doing it for my son because he's a junior in college, and I see that he's writing papers he doesn't believe in just to get an A. That's not us. That's not America.
Because he's upset if he doesn't express what the professor or teacher wants, he might get a C?
Well, I mean, the fact that they're canceled all over universities all across America. And we can't keep letting this happen to our kids. 78% of Americans don't think that their kids are going to live as good of a life as we have. I'm not okay with that. So we've got a country to save. I'm determined to do it.
How do you get people feeling better about America and patriotism at a time when it's being challenged so greatly? And I'd say I think it's ironic they call it the progressive left, because I call it the regressive left. But my question is, how do you get people, young people feeling good about this country again, better about it than this anti-American sentiment, which I think is a cancer?
It's about the tone at the top. It's about leadership. We have to come back to what our national purpose is. That doesn't mean faint hearts or watered down compromises. It means really focusing on what matters to us as a country and getting others to join us.
I want to just, I guess one of the questions I want to ask you in our studios, you're nice to come in, Governor Haley, former governor, Republican presidential candidate in New Hampshire today, off to, I think, Bedford, and then eventually Rye. I think you have some other stops. Concord. I want to ask you, there are many candidates who've been on my show who will say, we need to go, Washington's broken. We had one candidate call it the swamp, need to drain the swamp. I remember candidates, both sides of the aisle, we need to change Washington. Never seems to happen. We don't see spending cut. We don't see, the people feel that it's really working for them. We see this disconnect. We see professional members of Congress who are in their 20 or 30 years that become multimillionaires through public service. Nothing really ever changes. How could Nikki Haley change that?
First of all, I'm not a lawyer. I'm an accountant, and accountants are problem solvers at the end of the day. And what I'll tell you is, you put an accountant in, and I'll tell you, don't look at what I said, look at what I did in South Carolina. I mean, the idea that we went into every one of our agencies, we put people in and we told them to clean house. We told them to pull down bureaucratic red tape. We told them to get out any problem children, and we told them that they had to produce results within 90 days, and we stayed on them to make sure they worked for people, not the other way around. We've got to go and have term limits in our country. It is time that we have term limits. We also need mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75. I don't care if it's over the age of 50, but we need to make sure that the people in D.C. are up for the challenge. These are decisions being made on our national security. They're decisions being made on our kids' future economic policy. It's time.
You're a national newsmaker. Hillary Clinton said a number of days ago in part of an interview that sort of got out there that it's okay to question the age of Joe Biden. I actually think, I'm not going to debate you on the age thing, but I think there's a bigger issue. I don't think it's so much Joe Biden's age. I think it's his cognitive status. Well, I mean, you watch these audios and videos and his press conference a few weeks ago. If I'm the leader of China, or I'm Vladimir Putin, or I'm in Tehran, I'm going to be saying, boy, the American president doesn't really know where he is. That's interesting. Is that a national security problem?
You hit the nail on the head. When I was at the United Nations, we paid attention to the health and well-being of every leader. We had intel that told us that. We've got to make sure that they're not looking at us saying, now's the time. We've got the weakest president ever. But it's not even that. You look at these mental competency tests that I'm asking. These are simple. These are like name a few words with the same letter. Where were you born? What year are we in? Joe Biden couldn't even name what country he was in and needed a kid to remind him about which country the week before. But this is what I'll tell you. A vote for Joe Biden is really a vote for President Kamala Harris. We need to say what everybody is thinking. The idea that he would finish a full next term and make it to 86 is not practical. It's not realistic. Right. And we need to acknowledge that.
I asked one of the most moderate contributors we have from the academic circle, on the show the other day on this debt ceiling, raising the debt ceiling, this simple question. And I said, I want you to be a good sport, and I don't want you to think. I want you to answer me yes or no. Do you think, and you just left his college, so you can guess who it was, Neil, do you think President Joe Biden, if I was a White House press correspondent, and I say he gets a deal with McCarthy and they shake hands by Friday, and I got a question if they actually allowed me, Mr. President, real quickly, Mr. President, you're happy about a deal. Do you know the percentage of our debt payments compared to our GDP? Do you know what that's running right now? Could he answer that? And he said, no. How can an American president dealing with the debt ceiling, how could he answer the question quickly? It's almost 100% we're paying on debt.
It's over 100%. We haven't had that since World War II.
Do you think he could answer that?
No, I don't think, because he's never seen anything he doesn't want to spend. But let's not forget.
No, I mean cognitively. Do you think he'd be able to answer that quickly?
No, I don't.
Yeah. All right, listen, we are up against it. Thanks for coming in. Good luck today.